Noxus does not forgive weakness. It does not forgive hesitation. It does not forgive being born into the wrong family, or making the wrong enemies, or carrying the wrong name. Noxus punishes all of these things, without exception, without mercy. And yet, some people walk into Noxus with nothing, and walk out with everything, not because they were given it, because they took it. With patience, with intelligence, with the specific, quiet ruthlessness of someone who learned early that the loudest person in the row room is rarely the most dangerous one. Her name was Mel, and she had been the most dangerous person in every room for a very long time. She just made sure no one noticed until it was too late. Subscribe if you are new. A new League of Legends story every week. This one is about power. That does not announce itself. Mel was not born into nothing. That is the important thing to understand. She was not a street child who clawed her way upward. She was not a soldier who earned rank through battlefield valor. She came from something. She came from a family with history, with connections, with the kind of weight that a name carries in a place like Noxus. In Noxus, names matter. The right name opens doors. The wrong name closes them. For a time, her name was the right one. People listened when she spoke. People made space when she entered a room. People treated her with the particular deference that power-adjacent people receive. Not because of her, because of what stood behind her. And then she lost most of it. Not through failure, not through weakness, through the specific, impersonal brutality of Noxian politics, where alliances shift without warning, where yesterday's power becomes tomorrow's liability, where the people who smiled at you last week are the people moving against you this week, where the only permanent thing is the willingness to adapt. She learned this lesson earlier than most. She learned it when she could not afford to learn it slowly, and she learned it completely. Every part of it, every implication, every consequence, every way it should change how she moved through the world from that point forward. Some lessons leave marks. The deeper ones leave something more lasting. They leave a way of seeing, a way of moving through the world that other people cannot quite read, that looks, from the outside, like grace, like elegance, like a woman who is perfectly comfortable in every situation she enters. From the inside, it is something else. It is the permanent, quiet alertness of someone who has learned that safety is not a state, it is a practice. It requires constant attention, constant adjustment, constant awareness of where the light is falling, and where the shadows are. Mel understood power, not the obvious kind, not the kind that comes from armies and walls and the weight of institutional force. The subtle kind, the kind that lives in a well-timed silence, in knowing which information to share and which to hold, in understanding what someone wants before they have said it out loud, in being, at every moment, the person in the room who sees the full picture, when everyone else is seeing their own piece of it. She had grown up watching the people around her use power like a hammer, loud, blunt, effective in the short term, catastrophic in the long term. She used it differently. She used it like light, directed, precise, capable of illuminating, capable of burning, depending entirely on where she pointed it. Noxus noticed her. Noxus always notices people like this. The Empire runs on strength. But it runs on intelligent strength, the kind that achieves objectives without unnecessary cost, the kind that wins before the fight begins. Mel was exactly that kind. She moved through the political architecture of Noxus the way very few people could. Not with force, with understanding. She knew which rooms mattered. She knew which conversations would be remembered. She knew which alliances were worth building and which were already hollow. She built carefully, layer by layer, each connection placed with the precision of someone who is constructing something that needs to hold weight. She made enemies too. This was inevitable. In Noxus, anyone worth paying attention to has enemies. The question is not whether you have them. The question is whether they can reach you. Mel made sure they could not. Not through walls or guards or the obvious architecture of protection. Through something more reliable. Through being, at every moment, exactly one step further ahead than the people who wished her harm. Through knowing what was coming before it arrived. And being somewhere else when it did. The competitors who came after her were capable. Some of them were brilliant. Some of them had resources she did not have. Some of them had connections she had not yet built. None of it mattered, because none of them had what she had. The ability to see the whole board. Not just the pieces in front of them, not just the next move. The whole board, all the way to the end. She had a gift that went beyond intelligence. Beyond political instinct. Beyond the accumulated skill of years spent navigating a system that wanted to destroy her. Something that existed in the light itself. Something that responded to her will. Something that could catch what was thrown at her and send it back. With interest. The first time she used it deliberately, she was young. She was in a situation that was supposed to end badly. Someone had decided she was a problem to be solved. Someone had sent the solution did not arrive. What arrived instead was the aftermath of something that had changed direction. Something that had been aimed at her and found its way back to the person who sent it. She stood in the quiet that followed and understood something. She was not defenseless. She had never been defenseless. She had simply not known what she was carrying. Now she knew. And knowing changed everything. The light was hers. It always had been. She just had to learn how to use it. She learned. She was, as with everything, a thorough student. She understood quickly that the gift was not just defensive. It was not just the ability to return what was sent at her. It was the ability to accumulate, to layer, to let pressure build, and then, at exactly the right moment, to release it. This was not a lesson she needed to be taught. It was a lesson she already lived. It was, in fact, the story of her entire life. Build quietly. Wait for the right moment. Then act. In Noxus, patience is not considered a virtue. Noxus values aggression, forward motion, the willingness to strike first and hard. Mel had learned to let people believe this about her. She let them see the elegance and assume it meant softness. She let them see the composure and assume it meant distance. She let them underestimate her. Every time. Without exception. Every time was a gift. Because the moment someone decides you are not a threat is the moment you are most dangerous. She had built something in Noxus. Something real. Influence. Connections. A position that could not be easily removed. She had done it without an army. Without a title inherited from someone else. Without anything except the intelligence she was born with, and the light she had learned to. Bois le ten femi mea wield. She had rivals. Of course she had rivals. Noxus produces rivals the way other places produce weather. Constantly. Inevitably. Without anyone planning it. Her rivals were capable people. This was, in its own way, a compliment. Noxus does not produce incapable rivals. The incapable ones do not last long enough to become rivals. They were capable people who had made one mistake. They had decided she was manageable. They had looked at the grace and the composure and the careful smile and decided there was nothing behind it they needed to worry about. This was always the last mistake they made in relation to her. She did not destroy them loudly. She never destroyed anyone loudly. She simply ensured that the things they needed stopped being available, that the people they relied on found better options, that the ground they were standing on became, gradually and then completely, no longer solid. She watched them realize it. She was always watching. And she let them see, in the moment of realization, exactly who had been behind it. Not as a threat, not as a warning, as a lesson. So the next time someone looked at her and tried to decide whether she was something to worry about, they would have the answer. She had come a long way from the girl who had lost everything. She had rebuilt. Better than before, stronger than before. With a clearer understanding of what power actually was, and what it was for. Noxus was not done with her. She was not done with Noxus. There was still more to build. Still more to understand. Still more light to direct toward the things that needed burning. She sat in the room that her patience had built. She looked at the pieces on the board. She was already 3 moves ahead. She was always already 3 moves ahead. The people across from her were smart. They had prepared well. They had considered what they knew about her. They had thought carefully about how to handle her. They had done everything right. Except understand that what they knew about her was exactly what she had allowed them to know. Nothing more. The real picture was still hers. The real picture was always hers. She had kept it that way on purpose. She would keep it that way until she decided otherwise. That was the thing about light. You controlled what it revealed. You controlled what it left in shadow. You controlled the entire conversation just by deciding where to point it. The light gathered around her fingertips, quiet, ready, waiting for the moment. She would know the moment when it came. She always did. If this story stayed with you, subscribe. Every week, a new League of Legends story. The ones Dokkan, who win before the fight begins.